Carl and Liam here from Brrraains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and it's video game track by track time. We are taking a look at Dust and Elysian Tail, the action role-play video game developed by American independent designer Dean Dodrell and published by Microsoft Studios all the way back, can't believe it, in August 2012. Is it really so old? Do you remember why I played this game?
I believe I don't want to sound arrogant at all, but is it because I played it first and recommended it heavily to you by any chance?
You've nailed it right there. I will always remember this as one of those experiences that happens every so often when someone encourages me to play or watch or do something, and I'm like, oh, I'll get to it eventually, and then I do, and I'm like, hey, that person was right. And it's nothing ever to be arrogant to do. You recommended this heavily to me. I eventually got around to playing it, and it now stands as one of my favorite games of all time, not just because of the gameplay and that, but because of its incredible story and, of course, its incredible sound track. I have very fond memories of Dust. It's been a long time since I played it. Obviously, I haven't completed it with the achievements. You don't really feel like you got to go back and play it, but I remember a lot of it quite heavily.
Yeah, I completely agree pretty much with everything you've said. It's one of my favorite games of all time as well. I couldn't believe that it's been 10 years this year since I've played it. That makes me feel really old, but it is what it is. The fact that I think about it still now so fondly, and I regularly still listen to the soundtrack that we're going to discuss, it says a lot about how much I love it. And it'd be really great to see a re-release of it on the Series X. I believe it was released on the PS4 and Switch, but unfortunately didn't come to the Series X. But how about a sequel one of these days? Dean? That'd be great, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen at this point. Yeah,
I always don't want that to be. I feel about Dust the way I do Thomas Was Alone, in that you have something so special. Let's not ever do a sequel and take away from what you did in that game, because, you know, my love of Dust is that I love redemption stories in media, and Dust and Elysian Tail is an example of one of the best redemption stories in gaming for me personally.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I pretty much on the same wavelength as what you're saying there. Yeah, there's so much to love about the game. The beautiful animated art style that still blows me away. If you go back and actually look at how that looks even now, 10 years later, that really just highlights how impressive that was for the time. The characters, the story with its twists and turns, and the fast-paced combat throughout the game that never felt boring. And of course, again, the amazing soundtrack.
That is what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Soundtrack, yes, you've nailed it there. Coming from the Hyperducks, which is Chris Gehan and Dan Byrne McCullough, with additional music by Alex Brandon on specific tracks. So, of course, I want to show this off, folks. There it is. There is the Dust and Elysian Tail vinyl for this game. That is how much I love it. You're inside, and of course the tracks in the back. Now, if you look for this online and on Bandcamp, you'd actually find it have 30 odd tracks. However, the actual soundtrack is 1 to 23 only, and that is proven on the back of the vinyl, as you can see there. The rest are ambient additional pieces of music that we won't be covering. We are doing the soundtrack of the game. So yeah, and this vinyl I bought directly from one of the creators of the soundtrack, the Hyperducks. So thank you for selling that to me.
Yeah, and I read a fact which kind of blew me away as well, is that Hyperduck is actually made up of only 3 people that created the OST for the game, which is just unbelievable. There are AAA games that have massive teams behind creating the audio for games that don't come anywhere near as close to what they managed to create for this game.
I agree, because of 23 tracks, you would expect a lot of them to feel fillery, but that is not the case. So let's get into it. We'll give you our opinions and thoughts on the specifics, and of course, our favorite 3 as well. We'll begin with Falana, which for me is a sweet and melodious start, gives way to something grander and serves as a nice introduction to what will be experienced across the game, immediately making it clear that the game might have more emotion than you might expect.
Yeah, it's one thing quickly to know. I don't know if it's like this on a record that you have, but where I listened to it, the tracks didn't actually play in order of how they play in the game.
Agreed?
Yeah, so it's a bit mixed up. But yeah, Falana, I just thought I think opening tracks of video game soundtracks don't really get much better than this, in my opinion. I love the heavy piano notes. It just immediately takes me back to the game and makes me think about the tragic journey you go on with Dust and Fidget. it really encapsulates the experience of the game really well.
That an early encapsulation. We will be following the list that is on the vinyl. I've matched up to that. So if yours isn't the same, we'll just jump to the one that you need there. But I'm pretty sure it would be if you took it from Bandcamp or YouTube. The Land of Remembrance. The Land of Remembrance. Wonder. That's what comes to mind with this track. Opening eyes for the first time and seeing what lies before you. The melody and atmosphere are lovely, but the choral latter part of the track is where it is at. This has always been one of my favorite from the soundtrack, and it still is. I think this is beautiful.
Yeah, it's just a really nice, calming track. It makes me think of the very beginning of the epic journey that unfolds within the game.
Agreed, agreed. Aurora, some nice haunting melody here. The playful start giving way to a relaxed tempo with just the right amount of peppiness to kind of encourage you to move on. It feels like, all right, now you're taking your steps. Get going, get going.
Yeah, I agree. I found this to be a bit more of a simplistic track, but a nice change of pace from the previous two. I really like the added flute um, notes that they add into this track. That sound near the end of it, really nice. Yeah.
Suramon Caverns, badass. This conveys the sense of deep and dark mysteries, powerful and dangerous, but explorative too. This is one hell of an addictive listen with immense building power. If I'm kind of putting dust music on and I'm flicking between tracks, this is one that rarely gets skipped for me.
Yeah. Now we're getting into epic territory when it comes to the soundtrack, in my opinion. There's so many layers to this piece of music, it's hard to dissect it all, really. I like how slow-paced it starts out, filling you with intrigue, imagining exploring the dank caverns as dust until it suddenly ramps up as enemies start to appear, and you battle your way through looking for a way out.
I remember this section of the game maybe more than any other part, maybe on par with the village at the end and stuff like that. But this section and this music really stuck with me. I don't, it must be because obviously, as well as I do, we often discuss in these kind of video game talks, soundtrack talks, that music can make you remember a scene more than anything else. And I guess that's why.
I think that is what it is for me as well. Just like when you hear such a great piece of music, it alone is enough to just like take you back when you hear it again. Yeah.
The civilian trials, a moment of hardship that must be overcome, and this piece of music nails that. Notable for the chuggy guitar sound that sits in the background of the main melody. It's a very interesting track that really comes to life as it goes on.
Yeah, this is a decent track in my opinion, but one that might be a bit more forgettable and generic than the others. Not bad, but not one that I would find myself going back to listen to as much. It still takes you on a journey in your mind, like most of these tracks do. But I thought on the whole it's a bit more average for compared to some of the other ones.
No, fair. I think there might be some more that I have feelings like that. But before then, we get the Glade. And with a title like that, you might expect something a bit more relaxing. Not a chance, as this world is dangerous and damaged, which is what I get from this incredible piece of heavy atmosphere. It makes my heart race a little faster. Takes me back to my experience of playing it. This I love.
This track, man, I think it's amazing stuff. I can't help but reflect on the ideas of hope, struggle, perseverance, discovery, and the growth, which are themes that I feel Dust reflects so well. Epic might be a word that I would throw around easily, but when I say epic for this track, I truly mean it. It still gives me goosebumps now, and it's actually the first one you'll hear after the opening or in the game, so it's quite special in that way as well.
It is indeed. It is. Yeah, the word epic, you've used it there. It could be used for many, many times during this, even finding different ways to describe that instead. Then we get short fuse, energetic and thrilling. The pace of this one gives it a race feel, and that's a nice contrast to what came before.
Yeah, I think pace is a good way of talking about and describing this track. For such a short piece of music, there are so many elements thrown in it that it could end up making it a little bit messy, but somehow they managed to make it work.
Talented people, man. Talented people.
For sure.
Abydos Forest. Sticking with the energy, this one is a much more tense experience, though, and has this symphonic danger running through it like a very thick vein. I don't think the apex of the music, when it reaches the height, works as well as the main melodic rhythm, though. So for me, this isn't as spectacular.
Hmm. So you're not like as big on this one as some of the other ones, maybe?
Exactly.
Yeah. I thought this was another banger personally. But I think that's just the soundtrack in a nutshell, just banger after banger. This track filled me with pure nostalgia. The combat in the game is so smooth and responsive that fighting the hordes of enemies with this beautiful music playing at the same time is like some kind of dance in motion. It just fits the style of the game so well. It symbolizes that you've come far, but there is still a long road ahead.
Folks, when we started off this video game track by track, we actually planned this a long, long time ago, but we could never quite settle on how it would be done. We felt it might be too messy. It wouldn't work as well as our normal track by tracks and stuff like that. I don't know how you feel, but man, massive credit to Liam. When you talk like that and give these incredible descriptions, that's why we know it works. That's why we're continuing it. We know it works. You're getting it, and you're getting the descriptive and the feeling, because that's what game music does more than anything else. You can sit there and analyze the detail, the guitars, the melody, the keyboards, the synths, and all of that. But how it makes you feel is often more important. So nailing it.
No, I appreciate that, man. It's when we're talking about something that I'm so passionate about, which is video game music or Goosebumps or whatever, things that are, real, interests of mine. Yes, it's easy to get really into it. So, yeah.
You used the word epic. I'm going to use it now. It's the Soaring Meadows, and who would expect this? This epic sound with massive choral vocals. When it does drop away, it still has this strong sense of grandeur, delightfully different.
Yeah, different is a good way to describe it. Thought it was quite, again, another nice change of pace. It has a sort of gothic vibe to it, which I really like. And there's someone who's absolutely killing it on the piano in this. I don't know if you picked up on that as well. I like how you're sort of lulled into thinking that this was going to be a more mundane, subtle piece of music to give you a breather from the epicness that has already been delivered, and then suddenly at a particular moment, it's at minute 3:33, it just blows you away once more. So if you go and listen to it at that exact moment, you know what I'm talking about.
Great words, great words. No rest for the wicked. Short and sweet for me. Danger, fucking danger. That's what this track portrays. Run for your life, danger.
Exactly. It filled me with a sense that the journey is starting to get tough and more of a struggle. It's a very dramatic piece of music, and they didn't have to go so hard with it for such a short piece of music, but that's just this soundtrack, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll get to that about going hard for such a short amount of time. Right near the end, I think I really start to get that. But for now, we've deities. A weird first few seconds gives way to a so-so melody that has some nice pace to it, but I find this one pretty forgettable aside from the drum beats. I kind of like the drum beat of this one.
Yeah, I don't know if you picked up on it, but it's very similar to the track Short Fuse, but they've taken that and remixed it with some extra elements thrown in. At this point, I'm honestly trying to think of new words and struggling to describe how good this all is, but I'm not even halfway through yet, so I'll try to think of more, basically.
It is always a difficulty. Beneath hollow ground, extremely pretty melody, starry effects, and wonderful use of a piano as it goes on. This is a track that gets really good after the first 50 seconds. That's when it really comes to life for me.
Yeah, it's a gentle, whimsical change of pace that served as a nice breather, I thought, from some of the more heavier, frantic tracks.
Always good to have them. And then we get the Blackmore Mountains and back to the strong sense of mystery and exploration. This one does have a lightness that fits the theme, really as it goes on to have a bit more peppiness to encourage forward movement.
snowy or ice-filled areas in games are usually my favorite parts. I don't know if you feel similarly at all, but there's just a lot of beauty to that, and this track really does a great job of setting that scene. It's nearly 7 minutes, which is quite long, you might think, but I thought this might drag a little bit, but it flows really well and really engrosses you.
Agreed. Twin Souls. Simple for me. A haunting piece of music that has an otherworldly feel. I like it. I don't love it.
That's interesting, because I thought it was, again, another beautiful, reflective, calming, and yet sorrowful piece of music. It plays at a time when the biggest twist in the game is revealed, and what a devastating twist it is. Won't spoil it for you if you don't know what it is. But yeah, so it's a really powerful piece of music because of that.
Oh, you know what? You just said spoilers, and I had a quick look, and I was like, "Wait, do I talk about spoilers in any of the last parts?" But no, technically I don't. So yeah, we're not going to spoil it. We'll avoid it for you. Just go and fucking experience it yourself, you lunatics. Everdon Basin, my God. Talking about otherworldly, though, the start to this one is eerie, but man, when it gets going, it is one of the most frantic tracks on the record. Heart-racing pace that twists and turns through melody as it goes on. This is one of the most impressively structured tracks for me.
That's interesting, because for me, this was one that I didn't actually remember that well, but it does play during the final gauntlet in the game, and it really encapsulates that feeling of finality and the raw emotion that's flowing at the time. It's great stuff.
We have got some opposite, not quite opposite views, but different takes on certain pieces of music.
Yeah,
I'm going to be fascinated at a certain few, because I'd argue that the latter part of this record has some of my favorites. But we'll get to that. First, we have Last Sanctum, a layered but uncomplicated beat, punctuated by larger sounds. This is a grower of a track.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this one. It's just another solid piece. That's it, really.
Heavy Bones, Fight. This one has that feel. The drums are great here. That's all I have to say about that one.
Yeah, again, it feels like a sort of remix or mishmash of the track's fuse and deities, but it still manages to add in some newer elements to make it another quality track in its own right.
I am dust. And this evokes such a reaction from me that my first words were, damn fucking right we are. This feels like a revelation moment, and the music portrays that as the melody grows in volume and culminates into something much more defiant.
Yeah, if you haven't watched this scene recently, go back and watch it, because this music plays at a very important moment, and prepare yourself for goosebumps. Dust delivers a really epic speech, fully coming to terms with who he is and why he exists, and this music goes hand in hand with that perfectly.
Here it is. Let's end this. That's not me saying it. That's the name of the track. Yeah. End boss shit, and it feels it. Powerful and epic. The choral voices are back with more power and clarity. This is intense.
Yeah, it plays during the final battle against Gaius, and what a track to accompany it. All end boss themes, I believe, should aspire to this. It's so grand in scope, but ominous as well. Reminds me of something you'd expect to hear in a Final Fantasy game or something. I really love it.
Like God of War, just something like that. It's got that grandeur, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Ascension. It's not the end, and there are more mysterious things to be experienced beyond life. That is what this short piece does for me.
Well, when I hear this music, I literally cannot hear it without Gaius screaming, Cassius, in my mind as you make the slow crawl towards him. There's an operatic nature to it, and it just really adds to the moment.
Listen, while we did say spoilers, sometimes a track title might give part of the game away, I'm afraid. The next one is called Sacrifice. And I've written, look, I'm not crying, it's dust. Emotional and heart-wrenching melody and rumbling drums that build in power and grandeur. It feels important and it sounds amazing. The brief drift away, only to come back bigger and with that emotional crooning. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I listened through this whole soundtrack, this is one that I came to, and I don't recall going back and listening to this particular track that often, but it is a beautiful crescendo to a beautiful story.
We're not quite done yet as we have the penultimate track, Legend of the Mithrian. I love this. What a moment, what an ending. What a way to convey Dust's redemption. More people need to be talking about the brilliance of this game and this soundtrack. Stunning.
Completely agree. It's such an uplifting piece of music, which is so welcome after all that sorrow. It makes me think of the cliffhanger ending with Fidget and the fact that we never got a damn sequel.
And last but not least, Gone Home, in brackets, Journey's End. Okay, so I'm going to pretty much lay this one out here and not dance around it. This is one of the best credit roll tracks ever. The isolated piano melody that gets more and more powerful it goes on. The subtle touches layered in to give it a stronger feel. The latter part, the heavier keys playing, the soft drift. This is one of those that I listen to regularly. I think it's in a soundtrack that's just stunning all the way through. It's just another piece of amazing music.
Again, couldn't agree more. It's one that I have listened to countless times, more than I can remember. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. What is it about end credits music in video games? Something about it. So it's always, a lot of the time, it seems to be quite high quality. Yeah, in my opinion, this is one of the most beautiful pieces of music in any video game ever. In fact, music, period. The piano is perfect and you feel the power of every note that is struck. There are a few soundtracks that have managed to make tears appear in my eyes, and this is undoubtedly one of them.
We're not being hyperbolic here when we describe it like that. It really is that impressive. It is Dust and Elysian Tail soundtrack. And of course, we always wrap the video up by talking about our three favorite. And to be fair, this is a tough one to narrow down because you'd have to do a top 10 for me really to get across. So choosing three, they're very interchangeable. But I have gone with The Land of Remembrance because it's the opener of Wonder for me. Ciramon Caverns, because it was one of the earliest examples where I could remember detail of a game I haven't played for a very, very long time. And because I already said it, it's one of my all-time favorite credit roll tracks, Gone Home, Journey's End. But people, it really isn't interchangeable. It breaks my heart to have to leave off Sacrifice, Legend of the Mithrian, Everdon Basin, and so on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I could easily pick the ones you did. I could pick any three of the soundtrack, really, and I'd be quite happy with it. But I've gone with The Glade because it's the first piece of music you ever hear in the game, and that's just the music when I think of Dust. That opening scene in the forest and everything with the animals, yeah, that's just what springs to mind. I've then gone for The Soaring Meadows because I think it's an epic track, and of course, for me, number one is wait, was it? Are we doing three? Is it
Always three,
just
yep.
three? Just three.
Yep, always
Well,
three. It's the
obviously,
rule.
well, without a doubt, it has to be Gone Home. That's just unbelievable piece of music. So that's my three.
We double up on Gone Home Journey's End. So if you just want to taste it, go listen to that particular track. The fact that we both put it in our top 3 tracks of 23, bear in mind as well.
I do feel like you have to have like experienced the game to really understand the impact of that piece of music. Yeah.
No, I think that's a fair point. I think that's a major part of why we connect to it. It's something we both know very, very well. But do you, Dustin, Elysian Tail, you got any thoughts on the soundtrack and what we've said here? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?